to Healed Whole Cult. Today's conversation is for anyone who's ever felt like life completely unraveled and you were left trying to figure out who you are all over again. I'm joined by Ludie Hansen, a speech language pathologist with over 34 years of experience, whose life took an unexpected turn when her daughter was diagnosed with breast cancer, followed by the loss of both of her parents just weeks apart. In the midst of caregiving, grief, job loss, and deep anxiety and depression, Ludie found herself asking a question so many quietly carry: who am I now? But her story doesn't end there. Today, she has rediscovered her passion and now mentors caregivers of loved ones with dementia, helping them navigate one of the most challenging seasons of life with clarity, compassion, and dignity. Ludie, I am so honored to have you here with me today.
I'm so honored to be here. Thank you so much, Wendy.
You're welcome. I forgot to ask you before the show, so we'll just say it for now. Where are you joining me from?
I am in Glendale, Arizona.
Oh, all right. I heard it's been hot in Arizona this spring already.
It's been, we hit the hundreds already. So, but then we get in the 80s every once in a while. So it's going back and forth.
Yes, I get it. So I'd love for you to take us back to when your daughter was diagnosed. How did that moment begin to shift your life and your sense of identity?
Absolutely. We were both working at the same rehab facility, and I'd been there for a little over 2 years, I guess. And when she got the diagnosis, they were like, oh, we'll help you however. And then like a week into it, when she was getting all her tests done, essentially I got pushed out of my job because I was spending time taking care of my daughter. So what happened is I sort of came home, fell apart, felt like my whole life was gone. I mean, I was living with my identity being my worth being my job. And so that's how everything kind of started to shift, plus just learning the ins and outs of how to deal with cancer and all that. And she was only 29 at the time. So
wow.
yeah, that was a big shift.
Yeah, and then you lost your parents right after that.
Within a year, and within a year of that. Yes, that was pretty rough. As we were going through chemo with her, they started getting sick. And so I was traveling back and forth between Arizona and Texas, giving my sister a break because she lived where they were. Mm-hmm. So I would get out there. I know what caregiving's like because it's kind of my career. It was what I was doing. And so, and then, it was within a year going back and forth.
So you walked through caregiving, grief, and job loss all at once. What
Absolutely.
was that season like for you emotionally and mentally?
I actually became agoraphobic. I did not want to leave my house except to take my daughter to her appointments, myself to my own appointments, because we were trying to deal with my mental issues that arose from it, and just get me back into trying to want to be back in society again. And then I basically would travel and stay in my parents' or my sister's homes in order to help them. So it was a big change. Took me, my doctor said, you basically had a nervous breakdown. So she said, if you weren't taking care of everybody, I probably would have hospitalized you. So that's kind of where I ended up.
Well, it's good that she recognized and got the whole story and didn't just, throw you into a diagnosis that didn't make sense.
Exactly. That was big.
So what was the moment where you realized I can't keep living this way? What was the shift for you?
The shift was when ultimately I had been the breadwinner of the family, and we had taken HELOC out for me to be able to stay home and still pay our bills and keep the house. So there was financial stuff going on at the same time. And it finally got to the point where it was like, I've got to go back to work. And so that was the imposed shift on me, trying to get back into going into a community and working again. So that's where things started to shift and me get back out there, but it was rough. I had back surgery, and so I was entering the workforce 6 months after back surgery. And then my first 2 patients died within 3 weeks of starting to work with them. And it was just like deja vu. I'm like, oh my gosh, I just don't think this is insane. I don't know if I can do this. So, but that was the turning point. Yeah.
Well, and I know now you help families with loved ones with dementia.
Yes.
So like my family, my grandmother has dementia. And what's weird is about once a year, she called me in March of 25, and she called me this year in March. And when it pops up Meemaw, I always answer it because she never calls me. She calls me when she can't get a hold of anybody else.
Okay.
And it just happened to be a situation where she was like, I woke up and it's like I'm realizing I don't know where I am. And it's like for the first time, I'm aware of all the things. I would love so much for her to be out of the demented state. But she had just disoriented herself. So we had to talk her into just really just calming her down.
Yes.
Like, see the pictures, what else do you see? Oh, I see my porcelain chicken. She has this antique chicken, right?
Yes.
Like, and she keeps trying to give it away anytime anybody comes over. And they're like, don't because she'll think it was stolen. She won't remember that it was not, that she gave it away. And so we're noticing that, those moments are happening more because she calls my mom more than anybody because she's the primary person.
Yes.
It's interesting how, it's the decline is so gradual. And unfortunately, I know this is going to sound bad, but unfortunately, it's the mind is going, but the body's fine.
That's a lot of what happens. Exactly.
So what is your best word for anyone that has a family member going through this, and you love that they're still here, but they're not here anymore.
Right. I hear it described as the long goodbye, because it's like you've lost them. You're already grieving just because of the changes, and then they don't remember you. And it's like, it's heartbreaking. It's heart-wrenching. It's devastating. It's like you've lost them, but then you're losing yourself caring for them at the same time.
Right.
And that is where I try to jump in and help the caregiver, whoever that may be. If it's early stages, let's get a plan. Let's get things organized the way you're going to need them as this progresses, because it's very difficult for it not to progress. They're coming out with things here and there off and on, but at this point, we know it's going to progress, and we want to be ready and prepared. And sometimes you'll get pushback depending on the individual and the type of dementia, because there's like over 150 types of dementia out there. And teaching and educating, there's a lot of teaching and education out there, but people don't know about it. But also, I like to let people know, okay, here's how you can handle these situations based on kind of mentally where they're at in the moment, which can change throughout the day.
Right.
Actually, yeah.
What would you say for example, like my grandmother still knows who we are, but if we were to leave and come back, she will have forgotten we were there, right? So that we have that going on. But for the family that might be just experiencing it, what are the top 3 things they can do to get ready? You said prepare. What are the top 3 things to prepare?
Yes. Finances and power of attorneys and things like that. People, when someone's still with it, we want to make sure that those things are getting put in place and in order for when they get to the point where they can't or are not making appropriate decisions.
Right.
And they get to be a part of it. Know what their wishes are. Learn that stuff ahead of time. Do your best. In various types of dementia, you'll get a lot of pushback with that. So learning how to interact in a way that doesn't set them off in a way where they just want to push back really hard. There's nothing wrong with me, or, things like that. Just learning how to, finding the support you need to learn how to kind of navigate that situation. And just try. The other thing that's very important is getting a support system in place as best you can. Because a lot of people out there are, their families said, oh, I'm not going to deal with this. You can. And there's one person trying to do it all. So trying to find, a community support, day programs that might be able to give you a break, things like that.
Right. Well, one of the things we've done with my grandparents, my mom and my uncle have done a really good job of working together. They have an assisted living facility local here in the St. Louis area where they allow those who have dementia to live in there as long as they stay clothed and don't leave. Right.
Yes.
So we have her in a safe place. She gets the care she needs and deserves. And now we realize we need to add signs. Hey, you live here.
Yes.
And so just adding little simple reminders. This is your home. And then, I told her, I go, hey, do you see those pictures? She goes, and you see your picture frame? She goes, yeah. And they could keep rotating to all these people I don't know. And I'm like, well, those are your grandchildren. And I've been all bored. They're anywhere from just a couple years old all the way up to 15.
Okay.
And so those are your grandchildren. And I just kind of go through it with her. But it's just helping. And, most of the time it's easier not to bring up the most current. It's easier to take them back. Tell me back when.
Yes.
Going back into history. And so, because I think it's the past that deletes the last. Is that right?
That is correct. What's usually lost is like the brain is shrinking basically from the outside in. And so those newer memories are the ones that go the first. And being able to remember, day-to-day things. So a lot of times they'll be their head might be in when they were like 12 years old or, 20 years old. And the best thing I tell families at that point is, enjoy it, love it. They're going to tell you stories that you've never heard before. If they don't recognize who you are, just engage as a friend. And you'll be surprised some of the stories you may end up hearing that you'd never heard before. Cherish every moment you get like that. Yeah.
Oh, that's beautiful. So what about rediscovering your passion? Let's try this again. What did rediscovering your passion look like? And how did you know this was what you were meant to step back into?
Absolutely. So when I, started going back doing rehab in like independent livings and assisted livings, I was like, oh, I'm not going to be able to do this again. Mentally, I was just like, there's no way. So I jumped back in and went to the schools, which I said, I swore I would never do again. But at least it was a paycheck till, for a few months till the end of the school year until I figured out what I could really do. And I started getting involved in networking groups online and things like that. And ultimately what happened was I said, oh, wow, I lost 100 pounds. Maybe I can be a weight loss coach, and it was like, no, my heart wasn't there. And it was just work. It was work to try to figure out how to do that. And then I thought, well, my gosh, I went through all kinds of heck, maybe I just be a life coach, so I've been coaching and training and educating all my life. I'm like, I can do something along those lines. And it was, again, it wasn't my passion. So I got into a challenge where, we had to come up with a plan, not just a plan, but we're talking like a 5-day challenge. And before we were supposed to present our offer, literally an hour before, I'm like, Oh my gosh. Before 2020 hit, I was out there doing education training on dementia with families, caregivers, facilities, and I loved it. It was like my favorite thing in my 30 plus year career. And literally within an hour of that time to pitch, I said, this is what I'm going to do. And that's kind of how it happened. And it's just been building ever since. And I'm like, I'm loving this. I'm absolutely loving this.
Oh, that's beautiful. And what would you say to the caregiver who feels overwhelmed, exhausted, and unsure if they're doing enough?
Absolutely. They are. They're there. They're a part. They're a part of their loved one's life. Do your best to get support. I've actually created an app called Caregiver Calm that I'm giving away for free, where you just do a mental check on yourself, because I had to, fight the mental battle myself of, with everything going on. And it just lets you check in, and it helps ground you again. So it helps you reset your nervous system back to like where you can focus and function again. And then I also have another program that I'm still in the process of making that allows you to either do a click off button or type in a situation that's happening, and it gives you reasons why this might be happening, what's happening in their brain, how you can approach them to try to redirect, things like that. And then also gives you that nervous system reset afterwards, etc. Mm-hmm. So yeah, it's pretty fun. I'm having fun with that.
Oh, that's awesome. And I would like to conclude with, would you speak directly to the caregiver listening right now who feels exhausted, unseen, like they are losing themselves in the process?
Yes. You are seen. Please make sure you reach out, talk to someone, at least get on some of the support communities in Facebook or something like that. I have my own. You're always welcome to join me. But don't try to just absorb it on your own. You really do have to take care of yourself. You are doing more than you think you are. And one of the biggest things I hear is, I don't know who I am anymore, which is basically how I felt. And you really do have to care for yourself to be able to care for your loved one the most. And don't forget about you.
Mm. Yeah. So you share again how everyone can get a hold of you, the best way to be able to find that app.
Absolutely. Probably the best way, my email address, you guys just shoot me an email, and it's my first name, Ludie, Ludie, at ludiesrevival.com. So it's LudiesRevival.com. That gets direct to me. And my website is also ludiesrevival.com. So it's pretty, you can actually connect and get a one-on-one conversation just to, give you some support and see if there's something else we have to you that I can get to you.
That's so awesome. Well, I really appreciate you taking the time to share such, vulnerable testimony in how the world, because so many of us have loved ones who have dementia, and it's it can be a lonely road if you don't get the support you need and deserve. So
yes, absolutely.
I appreciate your time today, and everyone feel free to follow myself, follow Ludie on Facebook. And also I'll put in the chat comments, ludiesrevival.com, and reach out there. Till next time.